Let's see. Oh, look, we're live. Welcome, everybody, to Genesis Office Hours number 11, or double hockey sticks, if you will. Today, I have got two very special guests from the southern part of the U.S. I've got Andrea and Robin. And Andrea, let's start with you. Tell everybody who you are.
Okay, I'm Andrea Whitmer. I own Nuts and Bolts Media. Do a little bit of everything, design, development, Genesis training, ongoing site maintenance for some of my clients. And since a few episodes back on Office Hours, I'm calling myself a unicorn.
Is that one of those magical people that does design, development, the whole 9 yards?
Exactly.
Sweet. And Robin, how about you?
I think I wanted to be the unicorn. Can I be one too?
I think there can be more than one.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
In my office, I am the unicorn. How about that? So,
excellent.
I work for myself, and I'm right outside of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I build websites using the Genesis framework for small businesses and bloggers, and that's me.
Cool. Well, glad to have you ladies. And you two, I'm a little bit jealous because you got to meet in person at WordCamp, Tennessee a few weeks ago.
We did.
Did y'all know that, did y'all arrange that y'all were going to meet there, or it just so happened?
No, we talked about it. I wanted to be sure to go to Robin's talk, so we kind of texted each other ahead of time and said, hey, let's find each other.
We did forget to do Gary Jones's head on a stick, though.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, like Game of Thrones style head on?
Not quite Game of Thrones, but...
Well, I think we lost Carrie.
She does seem to have frozen. Does that mean we're in charge, Andrea?
I guess so. It might deteriorate quickly, folks. But no, we were going to put Gary's head on a popsicle stick, a little printout, so that he could attend with us. And awkward silence.
So. Well, since Carrie's not here to do it, I see that Missy has a question about the local Girl Develop It chapter. That is something, I've seen something about a class that's coming to Chattanooga for specifically targeting, girls who want to learn to code, but I don't know if there's anything specific going on in Chattanooga.
I have not heard of this, so I'm Googling right now while we wait for Carrie to come back. Oh, this is really cool. And it looks like it's mainly in bigger cities, which means it'll leave me out because I'm in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky. And my chat is not refreshing.
Well, it was just going... No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, someone said that Carrie must be on her neighbor's Wi-Fi again, and maybe that's what the issue is here, since she has completely left us. I don't know if she's rebooting or if we have to invite her to come back.
Well, since she's in charge, I'm impressed that it's still going on. I would have thought that, with her leaving, it would have kicked all of us off.
I don't know. I guess.
So good work, Google.
Most awkward office hours ever.
Yes. No, definitely. I have not been involved, Missy, because and neither has Andrea, because we don't know anything about it.
No, I'm interested in it though. Just kind of.
What I miss?
Oh, everything. We broke the universe and.
Yeah, we're done.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to this episode. Oh, wow.
Did she just freeze again, Andrea?
The record. And did it really? Am I gone? No, this is killing me.
Digital.
She's cutting out a little bit.
Okay, well, talk amongst yourselves. If you can't hear me.
Okay.
Okay.
Will day.
It is totally Gary's fault. Yes, I agree. And Gary's probably not here to be able to defend himself, so. Because what time is it in the UK?
Oh gosh, don't ask me about time zones.
Am I back?
You're back.
Okay, that's ridiculous. It's like the inevitable, just crap happens when you're trying to do a live podcast. So sorry about that, and sorry for whatever I missed.
That's all right.
Do we need to pick up anywhere, or we're just diving on in?
Well, Joe had just asked what kind of projects we have going on this week. So, me personally, I've got a couple medical sites going on, and I don't need a lot of phone calls and MailChimp, some good things like that.
MailChimp, what do you do, like setting up newsletters and such?
Yeah, I really like because they let you do the RSS emails, and and so they can be branded completely like your site. So got people who want to do that, and I like that MailChimp lets me do that. So I'm setting some of those up.
Nice. Andrea, you got anything exciting going on?
I'm working on a personal trainer site that I keep wanting to call physical therapy because they're both PT, and finishing that up. I'm working on a wellness site, very healthy around here this week, and I have had more new training clients this week than I think ever, so lots of calls, lots of Skype, technical difficulty kind of things, and hopefully not much work this weekend.
Woohoo! Yeah, somebody just sent me an email reminding me that it was a long weekend, and that thought hadn't even occurred to me, but it's exciting. Maybe take a day off, or a day to at least work quietly when there's the phone's not ringing and emails aren't coming in.
Very true. So what are you working on, ma'am?
Just quietly launched a site yesterday, and I say quietly because I haven't thoroughly hammered around on it, but shrinkingjeans.net, which is a group of ladies that they started. Jeans were a little tight, breeches too tight, so they started running and trying to get healthy together, and then started this community online called the Shrinking Jeans, and it's a lot of fun. They were really fun clients to work with, and excited to launch a new look for them yesterday. And then next up is a sister site of theirs called the Shrinking Kitchen. So moving both of those sites over to Genesis. It's a good time. A question, where do you find your best customers? I'd say referrals. I don't know. Robin, how about you?
For me also. They're calling me because somebody they know already knows me and likes me, and so they're predisposed to also like me. So
I don't know who couldn't like you, Robin.
I don't even want to know. Let's not go there.
Andrea, how about you?
Mostly referrals on this end. I also get quite a bit of interest from the Studio Press support forums because I'm a moderator there. So I get a lot of people who will realize that an issue is kind of beyond forum, and they'll email me. But more word of mouth than anything. I've never done any kind of advertising, marketing. They just show up.
I'm listening to an ebook right now by Michael Port called Book Yourself Solid, and I think I mentioned it last week, but he has you go through the exercise of identifying who your ideal client is, and once you identify that, how to go about actually finding those clients. And those clients, those really great clients, tend to beget other great clients. So it's kind of an interesting thing I've noticed somewhat in my own business, that good clients refer other good clients typically.
Yeah.
Question on what's your process of discovery with a new client, and then related to what we were just talking about, how do you attract new clients? I usually my discovery process is always in a state of refining, but generally taking the cues off the initial email that comes in. So, you can tell off the bat whether somebody's interested in, hey, I need this really quickly, or hey, I'm just kind of shopping around right now, or so you kind of hone in on whatever it is that's important to them, and then I start asking my questions from there. I need to know their timeline. I want to know. Sorry, I got distracted by somebody in the chat room firing a client. Be curious to hear about that. I don't even know what I was saying. Oh, client discovery. So I want to figure out their timeline. I want to figure out their budget. I want to figure out the type of work they're needing, all those things to see if we're a good match. I don't necessarily vomit all that out in the first email in the form of questions, but asking leading questions that don't have a yes or no answer, to try to elicit as much information back as you can from people. That was probably vague. I don't know. Andrea, anything to add on that?
Mine is also always changing. My quote form has just recently changed yet again. For a while, I had a very, very long form to weed out the kind of people who don't enjoy providing details and want me to read their minds, and then I've gone back now to a shorter one. But one thing that I just started doing this month is once I get the initial email from them and I think, yes, this is something I might be interested in, I just schedule a phone call. And I know that's kind of a four-letter word around these parts. A lot of Genesis people that I know don't do the phone ever, but it's so much faster because I can just ask the questions instead of all these emails back and forth, and I get a good feel for what they want from hearing it in their voice. And I've been told that my accent makes people trust me, so once I talk to them, I almost always end up getting that job. So that's just something new that I've been doing.
Oh.
Andrea's good on the phone is what she's saying.
We're going to publish your phone number in the show notes here.
It was on the site, and I just took it off because I'm getting a lot of calls from people who want to help me rank #1 on Google. So I just took it off yesterday.
I actually got a nice piece of spam this week that said, we can help you rebuild your website.
Sweet.
I thought, wow, that is a cold lead right there. I forgot to mention, or maybe got distracted by the fact that my Wi-Fi booted me off earlier in the show, but you can join us in the chat room and via video at carriedills.com/GOH, as in Genesis Office Hours. And after the show, sometime in the next couple of days, I will be publishing some show notes that have the questions that were talked about and any links that we mentioned. Let's see, we did have a question. Where'd it go? What portion of your work week? What's that?
Oh yeah, that one.
From Sandy, what portion of your work week is dedicated to learning new stuff? For me, I sadly don't really carve out time, say like, okay, every Friday morning I'm gonna, learn something new. But along the way, whenever I encounter a problem or something that I don't quite know how to do, there's a lot of learning that takes place in the moment. So I don't necessarily have time set aside, but it always seems to happen anyway. I don't know. Do either of you ladies do formal time?
I don't do formal time, but I feel like I do my best learning when I have a specific problem that I'm trying to solve, or task to tackle. So, I had a client last year that had a lot of really specialized needs on a website. So I learned a whole lot about custom post types and relationships and custom fields in a hurry. And, and templates.
Oh, I remember you tweeting some about that. Was that the impetus behind your Nashville talk?
It was in a large part. Since I started, I guess last spring, I decided that I had a client that needed a few custom post types on their site and did it, on their site, and then it feels like actually I'm encountering a lot more people who need custom post types on their site. So this one client this last fall ended up with like 8 or so, and 2 of which were tied together as a parent-child kind of relationship, and made for a very interesting time.
Woohoo! So bring your CPT questions for Robin, is what I just heard. Missy had a question on how did I connect with a real estate agent for my latest stock theme. Richard Hardian from winningagent.com is my partner there, and Richard had contacted me for unrelated work, maybe, I don't know, 6 months, 9 months, at some point before that, and I had bid on a project for him, and I didn't end up getting that project. My gosh. But a little while later, he came back to me and approached me about doing a theme. And for way of disclosure, he is a good friend of Brian Gardner's. So I think probably the fact that Brian knew both of us and thought that we might have some synergy there was a help. Another comment about firing clients. Got somebody saying they've done 3 mock-ups and the client is still not happy. I'm starting to think we have very different design styles. Should I encourage them to find another designer? Andrea, what advice would you give?
That's a tough one. Well, I think there are a couple of possibilities there. I mean, one, you could have one of those clients that is not going to be happy no matter what, and they're nitpicking. But then another thing, too, maybe, did you ask the right questions up front? And is there something in your contract that says this is the number of mock-ups that I will do, this is how many revisions you get? And I'm not saying this from an ivory tower. This is something that I struggle with a lot, too, is making sure that my contracts are specific and that they don't allow a client to steamroll me, because that happens a lot.
Good advice. And the next time that you write a contract, I bet you will get more specific about how many comps are included if your current one didn't. So always learning from those bad experiences about how to improve our process for the next time. But if you really, if you're not happy working with that client and you feel pretty certain whether it's your design aesthetic is not a match to what they're looking for, or whether you just maybe don't even want to design what they're looking for, if it's something hideous, then I would encourage them to find another designer. And that doesn't have to be a negative parting. It can just say, hey, look, we tried this. I think another designer could serve you better. But be prepared to refund them a portion of their cash if that happens. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Mr. Rosenbaum, for buying the Winning Agent theme. Let's see. Jason Hobbs has big red flags. I'm just going to read that out of context. Sending RSS campaigns via MailChimp. Robin, you have any tips or tricks, gotchas?
I think one big thing with RSS is images, because the RSS feed and images don't get sent over to an email the way that you want them on in your email. So Chris Coyer on CSS Tricks had a tutorial a week or 2 ago about that, and I actually changed it for myself. It was similar to something that I've been using for a few years, because I started out in WordPress because of doing photography, and so did a lot of galleries, and you really don't want your RSS feed to go out with 150 pixel square thumbnails, but then also you don't want it to go out with 1,000 pixel wide image in the email either, and certain email clients don't handle that very gracefully. So there's some things that you can do to handle images better in your RSS feed. And I think I can, if you want, I can share that a gist that I did.
Oh, we want it.
Okay.
I was doing a RSS MailChimp campaign a couple of weeks ago, and I guess it had been a while since I'd done one. And I was bringing in the feed as HTML so that it would take whatever HTML was in my post and insert it into my email to retain nice formatting.
Mm-hmm.
But what I figured out was that if you haven't, I mean, those email templates are pretty narrow, usually like 600 pixels.
Mm-hmm.
And if there were any images larger than that coming in via HTML, it just like got muffin topped all over the side of the email and looked hideous. So I ended up just bringing it in plain text, which didn't look quite as good, but solved the problem. Yay for gists. We had a comment over on the Google Plus page. Let's see, from Dale. And he's talking about the trend to move WordPress functionality into plugins, in particular referring to custom post types. And just to give a little history on that, at WordCamp San Francisco last summer, when Matt Mullenweg was given his State of the Union for WordPress, that was, I think, at version 3.8 at the time, 3.7, 3.8. And he talked about moving or functionality as, features as plugins. So moving forward, taking some of those big feature chunks and building them out as optional plugins as opposed to in WordPress core. So Dale, I think that's where your question is rooted. And then in particular to custom post types, I don't know, I'm not sure what particularly you're referring to there, but generally speaking, I mean, same, like consider a theme. Does a custom post type belong in a theme or does it belong in a plugin? And arguably it belongs in a plugin because any functionality
in a plugin, yes.
What's that?
Definitely in a plugin, yes.
Now you might call me a hypocrite because my winning agent theme actually includes a custom post type, and I kind of kicked against doing that, but for various reasons went ahead and did that anyway. But yeah, because you want to be able to move your features over regardless of what your theme looks like. So Dale, I don't know if that really answered your question, but feel free to ask something. Ask again more specifically. Let's see. Oh, we had some questions about contracts.
I posted a link on that one too, Carrie, to the contract killer.
Ah, okay. Cool. We'll take a look at that. No, I do not. Jamie, I do not have a lawyer look over my contract. I don't think anything I do is quite got that much heft to it. There's a lot of good faith that takes place, but generally speaking, I like to, every time something goes wrong, there gets a line added to a contract. I think that's pretty much everybody's MO. I don't know. Do you use a service like BidSketch or Quote Roller, Harvest, anything like that to send out estimates and invoices or quotes? I mean,
I use Quote Roller, and I'm not using their template though for my contract. And mine is something that, I don't know, I looked at a bunch of examples when I first started my business, and it's one of those deals where when something goes wrong, it's like, oh, better go in and edit that contract so that this doesn't happen again. And so it evolves constantly.
Cool. I had a question. Someone was asking, am I the only one who uses multiple options for CPTs? I'm probably misinterpreting that because the word option.
I think asking about different plugins to generate them.
Oh, okay. Because
there's lots of pods and WP types and super CPT.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think it depends what you're trying to do with a CPT. I mean, actually creating a custom post type is pretty easy and only takes maybe a dozen lines of code or less. So the more complex part comes into templating, at least in my opinion, when you're trying to figure out how you interact with those custom post types on the front end. So that's where some of those plugins, especially like types and views. I know Pods is great. I haven't worked with Super CPT, but where some of those plugins can come in handy in helping you craft your queries and display those post types. Let's see. So, Jonathan has a course. Oh, yeah, he does have a course. He did a podcast not too long ago. Jonathan over at Surefire Web Services did a class on using the WP types and views plugins. So, cool. Good conversation going on in the chat room. I feel like, Robin, Andrea, we can just kind of shoot the bull over here because those guys are solving their own problems in the chat rooms. They don't need us.
It was because you left in the beginning. They just all gave up, and we floundered so badly that they ran away.
I have full confidence in you. So an exciting bit of news. I think I mentioned it a while back. One of my listeners had asked about doing podcasts, or I guess this technically is a podcast or video cast, but stripping the audio out of these and then making them available on iTunes or otherwise for people to listen on the go. And that is in the works. I got a SoundCloud account, and it's been approved for podcasting, and I'm basically just waiting on a couple of I's to be dotted and T's to be crossed before I can open up the doors at iTunes for folks to go in and download Genesis Office Hours. Because, again, I really don't understand why somebody would want to listen without being able to see us, but apparently people do, so we're going to give them that option.
In the car, maybe, they want to listen as they drive around town, Carrie.
I mean, it is very distracting to look at me while driving. I'll grant you that. Let's see. Stephanie is asking, is liability insurance essential for freelance business? Does everyone have it? I do not. Part of the reason I went with an LLC, and let me just put an asterisk, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an attorney or any whatever, so take it all with a grain of salt. But the LLC was a good option so that if somebody, slipped and fell on my websites and broke their neck, that my personal assets would be off the table. In other words, limited liability I have as an owner. So I don't carry any additional insurance. I don't know. You ladies?
Well, coming from a photography background where, I was, having people jump on walls and, carrying a big, $5,000 worth of camera gear out into the ocean to take pictures, I always had equipment insurance for that. And, I mean, it was, like $300 or $400 a year. And then when we moved to Tennessee, I looked into doing that, and they actually suggested it. I think it's called a small business owner's policy or something. I mean, if you say that to your agent, they'll know exactly what you're talking about. But it actually covers not only my equipment, but includes liability, stuff here at my house. I mean, a whole bunch of stuff that, the other one didn't, and it's actually cheaper. I mean, it's like $300 a year. It's worth it. So, yes, I do have it.
All right. And you're either frozen right now or just remarkably still like a statue.
I think I'm frozen. Hang on.
I can hear your voice.
I'm turning off the camera, and
at least you freeze better than I do.
I may have been making a face there.
No, it was like a really normal, like, very intently listening. It was great.
Yeah. Jonathan, if you're listening, refresh that chat window. It's very finicky. And glad for you to join us. So we had a question in there addressed to everybody, I'm assuming chat room and us ladies, about what we might do to improve the Genesis community. So I asked specifically what kind of things you were thinking about. One thing in particular I'm very excited about, I don't know, maybe a couple of months ago, Nathan Rice, the lead contributor on Genesis, put out a call on Twitter to anyone who would like to be interested in contributing to Genesis Core. And before that has not been something that's open to the community. And they did just open that up. I mean, it's not like being invited to contribute is not like a free-for-all where you just write crap and it goes in there. There is, clearly a process. But it's nice to see the community to be involved in that process. I don't know, ladies, what if you could change anything, add anything come to mind?
I think we have a great community, and that's why every website I build uses Genesis and not something else. But I think the biggest thing for me is for other people to contribute and jump in. And, if you solve a problem working on a site, whether it's for a client or for yourself, even if it's a simple thing, write a blog post, explain how to do it. Because I guarantee after spending a lot of time in the forum, someone is looking for that solution. And so, even if it's to you the dumbest thing in the world or something tiny, somebody will benefit from that if you're willing to share it.
+1 for sharing the love.
Yes.
Robin, did you have something to add, or are you just listening intently again?
I'm listening very intently. I feel like there's a lot of groups that are kind of springing up around for people to kind of shoot the breeze very freeform about Genesis, and I guess my wish would be that was a little more consolidated, or open some. I mean, because I think there's a Facebook group and there's a Google Plus group and there's a LinkedIn group and there's a who knows how many Skype groups. So, and then there's the Studio Press forums. It's kind of fragmented.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but on the other hand, like, it's kind of where you hang out. Like,
yeah, I'm
usually not hanging out on Facebook during the days, so I tend not to be nearly as active in that community, but I'm on Twitter all the time, so I tend to see more of those things that go by. So I think it would be nice if there was a list of where all those resources were, but I don't mind that it's spread across multiple social media platforms. Let's see. We got another question on we're still talking community. We're not done yet. Support reputation, protecting authors from piracy. That's a big doozy, and I don't know that there's anything we can do about that other than support. Just be supportive. You can't stop it from happening. Talking about Genesis at meetups. If you're part of my local Fort Worth WordPress meetup, you're probably tired of hearing me talk about Genesis. How do you overcome this? This is from Greg. How do you overcome being intimidated about sharing how-tos when others may criticize how you could have done it better? That's an excellent question, and I think that we need to be cautious when we're critiquing each other or offering encouragement to each other that we're doing it in a way that doesn't make somebody feel like the pile of duty on the bottom of a shoe for not being having perfect looking code. I don't know. Andrea, how do you usually give feedback when you see something that's less than stellar?
Honestly, I can't remember ever reading a tutorial and approaching the author and saying, oh, this is wrong, or you could have done this way, because I think everybody, as long as it works and it's sticking to the most basic standards, everybody kind of has a different way of doing things, and I don't know. If a tutorial is not helpful for me, then I will look for another one, not stay there and berate the person. But that said, I've had some people email me before with a few of mine and say, I don't think it should be this way. I would do it this way, and I always encourage them, write your own tutorial and I'll link to it. That's not a big deal to me. And, if somebody else can do it better, then I think that's great.
Indeed. So, Greg, I would say don't be intimidated. Like, just do it and have a little bit of a thick skin about it, because know that some people are going to appreciate it, and that's better code than they could write, and other people are going to look at it and say, wow, that's child's play. I don't know. Just take it with a grain of salt. Jonathan had some good advice If it's criticism you can use, go for it. If not, toss it out the window. I don't know.
I think one thing I've found is that whenever I've had a question, I'm almost never the first person to ask it. And sometimes the tutorials that I find, I may find 5 and one of them may be right and 5 of them may be partially right. So I figure if I can take what I've learned figuring something out and share it, then it's worth sharing. And I have gotten, emails saying, you did that wrong. And, I've gone back and fixed it and said, thanks, I appreciate the correction. But
yeah.
So,
let's see. Stephanie says maybe more mentoring specifically in the Genesis community. So WPmentor.org, started by Matt Medeiros, is a great place if you're looking either a mentor or a mentee looking to connect with someone. But if anyone would be interested in acquiring a mentor, get in touch with Stephanie Newton-Songbird in the chat room. And I have the pleasure of knowing Stephanie personally because she lives here in Dallas-Fort Worth, and anybody would be lucky to get to know her better. Let's see. Do we have any new questions coming up, or are we still chatting about?
Somebody asked, it's been a little while back in the chat, how many hours per day / per week do we log for clients? And I don't know if I want to answer that one.
I think it depends on the day or the week.
Definitely depends. And here's the deal. When I'm bidding out a project, I try to think in my mind how many hours I might guesstimate for that to do, but I am not punching a clock. That's one of the reasons that I work for myself and freelance. And now if I'm working hourly, like somebody's paid me, to do 5 hours worth of work, then yes, I am time clocking. But that's very little of my work. So most of the time I'm, at my desk by 7 or 8 in the morning, and I'm working, and I work through the day. And not all of it, when you're freelancing, it's the percentage of the time you spend on quote-unquote billable hours versus the administrative time you spend going over emails, trying to generate leads, creating blog content. That's all part of the workday, but isn't necessarily any time you get to bill somebody for directly. So I know that's not a really good answer, but I couldn't tell you. I know my butt is probably parked in this very chair at least 40 hours a week. I don't know.
I use rescue time on my computer to keep up, just for my own knowledge, to know kind of how much I'm working. And I usually average between 65 and 75 what they call productive hours in a week. Now, that does not mean that many are paid by any means, because a lot of it is email and billing and that kind of thing. But it's been that way for me since about October, and I sense that it's kind of starting to slow down as summer comes and people don't want websites. They want to go to Florida and that kind of thing. But it's been very busy, and it's very hard for me to turn off at the end of the day.
Robin's listening intently again.
I have 3 kids who are, middle school and elementary school, and for a long time we homeschooled, so my work time was at night or during downtime, and it was just a lot of late nights. And now that they're in school, my work time is while they're at school, and when they come home I try hard to not be in front of the computer, and I try to not do that at night too. So my total work hours per week has probably gone down, but I'm being more efficient than I used to be.
Yes, my greatest efficiency comes when I shut down Twitter, I shut down HipChat, shut down Skype, and just knock out a solid several hour time block on a task, I get so much more done. It's not as fun because it's fun to hang out and watch the feeds go by, but that rescue time looks interesting. I might be scared to know what my results are.
So,
Go ahead.
oh, no. I just thought somebody mentioned something.
Let's see, a question on a comfortable office chair. I don't have one anymore, and I can't sit at my computer more than an hour or so at a time. Maybe that might be a good thing. I've seen some of those, pipe up in the chat room if you have one, the standing desks or the desks that transition from sit to stand. I think that looks kind of fun. Or to have your desk on a treadmill so you're getting in your mileage. I don't know. When I was about, I don't know, in my early 20s, and the technology boom was happening, and every company you worked for, freelanced for, was venture funded and had just this killer, beautiful office and beautiful office furniture. The chair of my dreams was a Herman Miller Aeron, that black chair with the kind of stretchy back, and it had like 30 levers on it so that you could adjust it. It probably even had lumbar support. I don't remember now. Anyways, I'm just in a little wooden chair here, but there's no arms because I get kind of wild. I like to have my space, and I got swivels because who doesn't want to be able to do this at their desk?
Good point.
Yeah, and so, hey, if you're listening to this podcast in the future, you just missed me doing a swivel at my desk. Too bad.
I have a cheap IKEA chair, but I love it. Somehow it helps me sit up straight and not slouch.
Like one of those, was it the rubber balls, like the...
Oh, the yoga balls?
Yoga ball, yeah.
I don't think I'd do that.
I tried it, but I had too much fun bouncing. It wasn't getting any work done. I don't know. Andrea, are you still with us, or are you frozen up over there?
No, I'm here. I'm just thinking about chairs. My desk is actually behind me right now as we're talking, and I have this horrible chair. Before I worked for myself, I was a therapist, and one of the mental health clinics that I worked in remodeled, and they were giving away these chairs, so of course I took one home, and that is still what I'm using 6 years later to sit in, and oh gosh, it's so bad. Especially after about 17 hours a day, it's like, okay, I would rather, I don't know, lie down on concrete than be in this chair. So, yeah, if somebody wants to put a link up, in the chat for a great chair, I'll click your affiliate link.
We're going to crowd tilt you a chair for Christmas, Andrea.
Oh, that would be awesome. And that's better than the idea that I had a while back about crowd tilting a new bed to hold all of my dogs. So, yeah, I'd take that.
I'm not even going to touch that one. Had a question from a guy over in the chat room about what's the best way to get on Genesis office hours. There's no official, connect with me. Let's talk. Anybody's welcome, and the goal is to introduce people from the Genesis community, like Andrea and Robin and the guests that I've had on before that I think have something unique to offer and are not necessarily the people you always see. So introduce some new faces. Let's see. Has anyone experienced phantom clicks? A click recorded on a site when that link absolutely does not exist in your content or comments. I can't. If I have, I hadn't noticed.
Yeah, I'm a little confused about that one.
Yeah, we don't. You may have one of those famous website demons. Jam wants to know, how long do you give website aftercare, and is it free or paid? I'm kind of moving away from maintenance projects and sending them on to something like wpsitecare.com. Generally, once a project is launched, I'll give a client a week to go through it and let me know if there's anything broken, unexpected, not quite right, and then I'll fix it. And once I fix it, they have another week to go review it. So in other words, they're not waiting on my time to go fix something. But I put an end cap on that, and then finally we'll say, oh, all the changes will get done, and we agree that this is a finished project. And after that, anything else they want would be, come under paid work. Robin, how do you handle that end of project?
I actually do, for somebody who has a full website build, I go ahead and do 6 months of, where I say, if you forget how to, make a blog post or to change a category, or, you don't remember how to add something to a menu, you call me, and don't worry, that I'm going to make you pay me for it. Because my goal with, the whole reason that I'm putting them on WordPress is so that they can do it themselves. And, if I just do a huge tutorial when we launch, I know they're not going to remember most of that. I sure wouldn't. So that, we may not know what questions to ask or answer, on the launch day. So, and then after that, if they want a maintenance contract, I do some of that.
Andrea, how about you?
Robin is so much nicer than I am with that 6-month thing. When a site goes live, I do usually 14 days, because inevitably there's something on the test site that we didn't see, or something that's that's frequent in their post that needs to be styled better, and there's always that sort of thing. So for 14 days, I'll make those changes at no charge. And then, but for some of the things that Robin mentioned, like if it's basic WordPress, how do I change the category on this post? I mean, that's one of those, it takes 5 seconds to answer that, so I'll do that. But generally, after the 14 days, if they need continued support and they're emailing me regularly, then that's when I talk to them about ongoing maintenance.
I mean, once we launch, I'm not making design changes or code changes unless I screwed something up. But, I just don't want them to feel like I hung them out to dry as soon as we click go.
Right.
True. And, it's not like I'm patting them out the door and saying, don't call, or I'll call, don't call me, I'll call you. There's always an open door. But generally speaking, I look at it like this. I mean, and I don't know what individual because people are chatting it up on their boards that maintenance is a great income stream, and I'm thinking maybe I didn't charge enough. I look at it like this: if a service like WP Site Care can charge $100 a month or less than that to provide basic maintenance services to my clients, I can't provide it that cheap. I mean, that's if nothing, let's say that everything goes perfectly, the client never calls me, and all I do is log into their site, do a round of updates, back up everything. Okay, that's worth $100. But one phone call or one fix in, and I've blown the budget on that. So I don't know. It's not my thing. And Jenny pipes out that it depends what you consider support after the project is launched. Some clients want tutorials, etc. I use the WP 101 plugin and install it on sites I do for clients so that they have video references for how to use WordPress. And then there's also a really cool feature in there where you can add URLs to custom videos you do. So I typically do screencast to hand off to my customers to show them how to use specific custom features on their site, and I can link to that from the 101 videos, so it's all consolidated in their dashboard.
Is that a premium plugin, Carrie?
It is. I think
I've looked at it, but not recently.
There's 2 versions of it. There's one, they're both subscription models. One, you can just go pay to watch their videos. And then the other one, which is what I'm using, is where you can actually install the plugin and the videos are accessible from your client's dashboard. And you could use it on as many sites as you want. And I don't know, I think I maybe pay $100 a year for it. Oh, let me put it this way: whatever I pay for it is a lot less than what it would cost me in time if I were to be walking clients through all those steps. So WP 101, check that out. Let's see, we got about 10 minutes left here, so if you've got some burning questions for Robin and Andrea, please
Brad
those in.
Potter is asking about hourly rate for maintenance. I think he really wants to know because he's asked twice.
Well, here's an interesting question for a question. Do you have a separate rate that you charge based on whether you're coding, designing, doing maintenance, all that stuff, or do you just have a blanket? I just have a blanket flat rate.
Me too.
And it's $100 an hour. Generally, if somebody's so it's a minimum, right? So I'm not going to work for 30 minutes and charge $50. If you're going to get me for an hour, you're going to get me for an hour. Now beyond a certain point, then I'll prorate hours. I don't know. There's a website, and I'll have to find it later and put it in my show notes. There was a guy last year, Chris Strom, maybe is his name. He did a survey of Genesis users or people in the Genesis community, and it was really interesting. He asked all kinds of questions, and the survey was anonymous. But it talked about, how many people just use Genesis for themselves, how many people do client work. If you do client work, on average, how many sites do you launch a month? And he also addressed salary, and average per project cost, and that sort of thing. So Brad, I'll figure out the link to that and get it to you because it was interesting, and I'm hoping that Chris. Oh, thanks, Andrea just posted that. Beautiful. And hopefully Chris will redo that survey this year, and it'll be interesting to see how the community trends. A creativity burnout, that must have been in response to another question. Jenny's posting her can't even say it, a monthly maintenance where she sells cheese by the seashore. That is over there. All right, well, everybody's having fun over in the forums, and you girls, where will we see you next? Is it a WordCamp? Is it some other conference? Is it at my backyard barbecue?
Darn, you spoiled the surprise. I am hopefully going to WordCamp Columbus, which I think is in August. That's about a 5-hour drive for me. But one of my friends lives up there and someone that I'd like to meet in person, so I'm going to try to head that way. And otherwise, I'll be hanging out on the Twitters.
Cool. I'm jealous that you're going to Columbus. You're going to get to meet Angie Meeker and probably Noel, whose last name Van. But both those guys are great. I would love to meet them in person. So say hello. And Robin, where's your next appearance?
I don't know that I have one on the agenda. I did Atlanta and Nashville. Those are both about 2 hours away from me. And I don't know.
Well, all right.
They're in the spring, so I got another year.
A year to prep for your next talk. And if anybody wants to come out to the Dallas-Fort Worth WordCamp, it's going to be October 4th. Super excited about that. We finally got our Twitter handle up at DFW WordCamp, but don't have our website up yet. I will be at WordCamp Orange County for my next camping adventure. And yeah, after that, I guess the DFW one is the next one on my radar. So, see if anybody has any final questions, and no, they're just all talking amongst themselves. So
they like Andrea's dog. And I think we just need to make sure that everything we say from here on out includes the name Andrea so that we can keep messing with Andrea Rennick.
That's right. Yeah. So we need to get Andrea Rennick, and then Andrea Whitmer, and then Andrea from Automatic on together so we can have an Andrea trifecta.
That would be so confusing.
I'll just make each wear a T-shirt with a number 1, 2, or 3 on it, so I can refer to you accordingly.
And then Carrie's shirt could say "Not Andrea."
Hey, there we go.
Or you know what? It's just going to say "I'm with Andrea" and have an arrow.
There you go.
Pointing. I'll just have to make sure I'm positioned right in the video so that my arrow is pointing the right way. Let's see. Yes, koala design. I did address that question on a Dale's question on CPTs earlier, unless he posted a second one. Let me work my magic refresh button. And yeah, I'm just still seeing the original. Oh no, there was a whole other part of that. There's this thing called the More button, where if you click it, more information comes up. I'll tell you what, this technology is new and crazy. So let's see what he had to say. Understand that it would be back to the question on custom post types. Understand that it would be beneficial if you were to change a theme to the later stage. But what if I was to only use the Genesis framework? Surely, when adding my CPT to functions.php, I should just be able to copy paste the added code to a new theme without issues.
Can I hit that, Carrie?
Please do.
Dale, you're right that you can just copy and paste your CPT from one functions file to the next, but why do that if you don't have to? I don't use a plugin to make my custom post types. I know there's some good ones out there, but I mean, whatever you put in your functions file, you can roll your own plugin with that code. It's not any harder, and then you do have the functionality built into the site without worrying about losing it if you change from one child theme to the next.
I'd +1 that. I mean, yeah, it's not, if you're comfortable enough adding it in the first time, you can certainly go and copy paste that into a new theme, but maybe you're not the person working on that theme the next time it gets updated.
For me, when I did it the first time, my hang up was I didn't know how to make a plugin. And I thought it was a lot harder than it was. So, Dale, if you're interested, on my site, which is just robincornett.com, one of the most recent posts is my slides from WordCamp Nashville, and there's also 2 GitHub links to plugins that I wrote as example. Well, one was an example, and one was one that I just wrote. So it's really easy to make it in, make your own plugin, and I would recommend doing that instead of putting it in a theme if you're doing it for a client.
Cool. There, I threw your link over there, Robin. And I would say too, go hang around Robin's site and Andrea's site. They both produce great, really helpful content. So please do check them out. And Robin's is robincornett.com, and Andrea is Nuts and Bolts. nutsandbolts.com.
No, nutsandboltsmedia.com. I wish
Nuts and Bolts Media, sorry, on the Twitters at Nuts and Bolts.
Yeah, I can't get that domain away from the hardware store that has had it forever.
Oh.
That is, yeah, unacceptable. Leslie had a question on recommendations for an appointment scheduling plugin. Do you all know of anything you'd recommend?
I think there is, and I said this in the chat, there is nothing good out there, in my opinion. I have tried, I don't know how many plugins, and some premium, some free, and there's not much out there. And I talked to Norcross a couple months ago with a big list of stuff, and because he has nothing better to do, I'm like, make this plugin for me, and hoping that maybe at some point he'll find some time to look at it and get a good one out there for Genesis. That would be great.
WooCommerce did come out maybe a few weeks ago with appointment
WooCommerce bookings.
I have not used that, so I can't comment from personal experience, but that might be something
Chris Lemma, I think, just posted. He did a post about WooCommerce bookings, and he also mentioned another service, I think, in that post, a bookings service that was not WordPress, I think, but said was good.
Huh, okay. We'll find a link to that and throw that over in the show notes as well. Well, I know it's hard to believe that we have spent an hour together, but I'm going to put you out of your misery and send everyone on their merry ways. Thank you, ladies, so much, and thank you to everyone who's participated in the chat and answered questions and asked questions over there. Robin, where can people find you online to say hello?
And my website, I'm on Twitter, and yeah.
All right, all over the place. Andrea?
Mostly Twitter. I hang out on Google Plus some. Hang out on Skype a lot. I'm pretty much everywhere. And then, of course, my website, nutsandboltsmedia.com.
Cool. And I am Carrie Dills. You can keep up with Genesis Office Hours at carriedills.com/GOH. And there's also a link on there or just go to Google Plus and do a search for Genesis Office Hours Community. And if you sign up to be part of that community, I promise there's no spam going on. I just post basically when a new show comes out. So you can actually get an email in your inbox reminding you to grab your popcorn and come join us every Thursday. So that is it, guys. I will see you online. And thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Carrie.
Bye. Thanks.